the OldPreMeds podcast, session number 202. You're a non-traditional student entering the medical field on your terms. You may have had some hiccups along the way, but now you're ready to change course and go back and serve others as a physician. This podcast is here to help answer your questions and help educate you on your non-traditional journey to becoming a physician. Welcome to the OldPreMeds podcast. My name is Dr. Ryan Gray, and on the OldPreMeds podcast, I take questions directly from the OldPreMeds section of the premed forums over at premedforums.com. Again, go to premedforums.com, go to the non-traditional premed forum, ask your question, and we'll hook you up, hopefully with an answer here on the podcast. We have a great question today from a student asking about post-bacc interview preparation. Our student says, "Hello, OPMs. I have a few interviews with post-bacc programs around the country, and I'm wondering how to best prepare. Does anyone have any experience interviewing with formal, structured career changer post-bacc programs like Bryn Mawr, Goucher, Johns Hopkins, and others? I'm wondering what to expect and specifically what interview questions to prepare for. Should I be reviewing medical school interview questions, or is the interview process different?" All right, so this is a great question, right? The interview process for post-bacc programs is going to be very similar to a medical school interview, right? These post-bacc programs, these career changer programs, very structured, very formal programs, are going to want to make sure that you are prepared and ready for medical school. And so the questions that they're going to ask are going to be very similar to preparing for your medical school interview. They're going to be a formal program where they have a community of students. So they're going to want to see how you're going to fit with the community. So they're going to ask those types of behavioral questions as well, potentially. And so I would say that you prepare for your post-bacc interviews the same as you would prepare for a medical school interview. You have to understand, obviously, your application. You have to understand your strengths and weaknesses. You have to understand your motivations for wanting to be a physician, right? If your goal is to go to a post-bacc program to become a physician, then they're going to want to know why you want to be a physician, because they want to make sure that they are training people who are going to go on and get into medical school, right? It doesn't look good on them, on their program, if they take your money and you aren't sure you want to be a doctor, but you're like, "Hey, what's this post-bacc program? What? Right? What's another 50 grand? Why not?" But then on the back end, you're like, "Well, maybe I don't want to be a doctor after all. Maybe I want to do this other thing." And so it looks bad on them because now you're not a student who can reflect well on their program as someone who has finished their program, got into medical school, and is now out as a practicing physician in the future. And so they're going to want to make sure that you understand everything about being a physician, just like medical school is going to want to know. And obviously, you can't really understand what it's like to be a physician until you are one, but you need to do the shadowing and clinical experience and all that fun stuff. Some programs are going to want you to take an MCAT, and you'll have to potentially reflect on that and how well you did there. But outside of that, it's going to be very similar to a medical school interview. And because of that, and because at the end of the day, these interviews should be very conversational. They should be a coffee shop conversation, as I call them. You want to prepare like your medical school interview, just like I teach in my book, The Premed Playbook Guide to the Medical School Interview. So I would really start with that. Go onto Amazon, go to Barnes & Noble. You can find the book everywhere. Your local library should be able to get it for you for free. It's on ebook everywhere. Eventually, it'll be out on audiobook at some point. But you should be able to get it for free through a library system or inexpensively through Kindle and elsewhere. But go start there, right? The Premed Playbook Guide to the Medical School Interview will help you with your post-bacc interviews as well. Remember, the ultimate goal is not to sell yourself. It's to have that coffee shop conversation. Show them who you are as a person. Show them that you can connect with them, which ultimately will show that you can connect with your classmates and future patients, and hopefully that you can connect with your medical school interviews as well, right? They are kind of the first line of defense to a medical school interview. They obviously, hopefully, have conversations with medical school admissions committees, and they understand what the medical schools are looking for. So they're going to be that first line of defense in screening students and making sure that the students are going to be able to not only get through the post-bacc program, but also get into medical school, both from a grade standpoint and from an interviewing standpoint as well. So again, the book, Pre-Med Playbook Guide to the Medical School Interview. I've done a ton of podcasts about the interview process for medical school on the pre-med years. So I would highly, highly, highly encourage you to go check out all of those. I'll actually have a playlist in Spotify soon, if not as of this recording, where you can go into Spotify and search for medical school interviews and see all of the podcast episodes in one playlist, which will be nice. So stay tuned for that if it's not there already. All right, hopefully that was helpful. Again, if you have a question you want answered here on the Old Premeds podcast, go to premedforums.com, register for an account if you don't already have one, and ask your question there. If you are looking for some MCAT help, go to nextsteptestprep.com, where they have the best full-length exams for the MCAT to help you prepare for the MCAT, right? It's the best way to prepare for the MCAT. Again, nextsteptestprep.com. Use the promo code MSHQ to save 10% off of their full lengths. Or if you're looking at doing their course or one-on-one tutoring, use the promo code MSHQTOC. Hope you have a great week. We'll see you next time here on the Old Premeds podcast.
This is MedEd Media.